In this episode, you're going to learn how to customize your own forms. You're going to learn how to set up your own custom form fields. You're going to learn how to put forms onto a page and style them so they work on different color backgrounds, so maybe on a light background or a full color background. We're also going to dive in a little bit deeper and have a look at how you can use forms to take both payments and subscriptions. You can use both your online store to take payments and subscriptions, but you could also use that in forms too. Okay, but then we'll also have a look at the interaction between a form, what happens when someone completes a form. We want to take them to a thank you page, possibly with more information, but we also want to make sure they've got a nice email so that they know that they've submitted the form, but also so that you know they've submitted a form and they go into your bucket of leads in the inquiries area, and we also create them as a new member. So here I am in the forms area, and as you well know by now that you can get to the forms via the main menu and click forms. Well, here is a list of a whole bunch of forms that are pre-made for you as part of your theme. Okay, so we're going to have a look at some of these forms, but specifically immediately I'm going to be looking at the event form and the event light. I've got two variants of this form. So to explain what's going on here, in the tabs at the top I've got a form here set up, which you can see my form is on a dark color background. Okay, and in the editor we can see my form that's here, and if I click on the form you can see the whole list of forms that appear. So as we create and manage forms in the forms area, they appear in the dynamic list of forms in the editor. So I'll just describe what's going on there. What I'll do is close this down. I'm just going to pop this into design mode so you can see the form's actually living in this frame here, right? So I'll just delete this. And what I'm going to do is add a new form. So you add a new form to a page using the components, and I will embed now a new form. Now this particular form comes in I've made two variants of this form. Okay, I've made an event and an event light. So event light has light color fields, an event has dark color fields. So let's just have a look at this event light. I will save this now and we'll jump across to our tab. You can see that we have the light fields on top of this. But what I'll do is jump back into the editor. I'm going to change this to my event form with the darker fields. So what I mean by this, I'm just going to press save and I'll jump back into the tab and hit refresh. Let's scroll down. You can see that these have got dark fields. So when we're creating forms, I like to create two versions for my content team because I don't know where they're going to place this form. Are they going to place it on a dark background or are they going to place it on a light background? So if it was the light background, let me just show you this. I'll come into here and I'll take out our gradient. I'll just pop in our neutral. Okay, I'll actually just change the text colors in here as well. Let's just make sure that we can see this as I save this so we can see on the front end. So I'll just save. Let's come back in here and hit refresh. And now you can see our form on a light background. So here we've got the form that's called event, and previously we were looking at the form with light fields called event light. So let's have a look at this. We've got event and event light. Okay, so keep that in mind. So now we're going to do two things. We're going to go and edit this form that we've got here. And edit means we customize all of the fields that go within the form. And then the second thing we'll do then is go and look at the settings tab. Now the settings is where we control all of the stylings like light and dark that we looked at there, but also, as we mentioned in the introduction, where we go and to set up the interaction that happens after a form is completed. So that is the landing page that they go to when they've completed a form, the email they get when they've completed a form, and whether you want to get notified yourself via an email, and also whether you want to turn the person that submitted that form into one of your members. So let's do it. Let's go into this event form here. So we'll look at event light first of all. Let's go into this. And here you can see all of my fields. So this has got a few different types of fields here, hasn't it? This one is what we call a multi-selection list, okay? And this one is what we call a text. So there's a few different types of fields, isn't there? Well, I can change the field type simply by clicking at the top here. So you can see we can assign different types of form fields here. We've got a text, mobile, email, password, date, number, web address, text area, drop-down radio, checkbox, and multi-selection list. Well, I think most of those are quite self-explanatory. If you've built any websites or done any kind of CRM activity before, these will be familiar to you. The key ones in here is mobile is the one that you should use for a number. I tend to use mobile rather than number all the time. Mobile means when they go and submit the fields, it will automatically come up with numbers rather than text, which just is a nicer interaction. So if you're using a phone, I would get into the habit of making sure you select a mobile field. Okay, so that's tip number one. Let's go and have a look at mine. I've got a mobile field here and I'm using mobile. A lot of people will say the word phone, so you could change the label here to phone and still use mobile. Okay, so keep that in mind. I always just like to get a mobile these days because it's much better for, you know, the quality of the data that you're receiving. As we looked at there in previous episodes, Moble's philosophy, MOBLE, motivate, is get a mobile or email address. So we're always looking to capture that information on our forms. All of that I'm going to cover with you in day 5, but it's super important we try and get as many email addresses and mobiles as possible as we build up our database. Why? Because if you've got that information, you can market to those people for free forever, and so you reduce your reliance on ongoing advertising. Of course, save a lot of money that way. Okay, so if I wanted to add a new field here, I could simply come in here and I could choose a different type of field. So in this one I could put web address, and in here I might put website. Okay, we're going to capture their website, and then do I want to make this mandatory? Do they have to complete this field? Well, I'll say no at this stage because it might be someone without a website, and I will click tick. Now I could move this to anywhere where I want it to go simply by dragging and dropping. So that's the way it works. I'll now delete this website field. Now I'll go and look at some of the other fields that we've got here. So I think you get all of these. We've got people often, the questions I get is what's the difference between text and text area? Well, text is one line. Okay, and text area is multiple lines, and they can actually, with the text area field, they can actually drag the space when they're completing it, which makes it easier for them to fill out. So that's a little drag icon on a text area. So if this is an inquiry field, or leave a note, you know, or leave a message, whatever you want to say, it's nicer to use a text area than just a normal text. Okay, so that's the first type of field I'll draw your attention to. Now, a drop down is just a straight drop down. Radio are actual toggle buttons, check buttons. Okay, and a checkbox gives a little tick in a checkbox. A multi-selection list, well, you know, that's what we've got here on a front end where people can select multiples. So you need to decide which ones that you're going to use there. Okay, so that's a quick introduction to field. So I think you should be very capable to go and create your own form fields, have a play with it. Always remember with a form to test it. Okay, so what you're testing the email that your customer receives and the email that you receive. We want to make sure that data is complete. Okay, so enough about that. I'm going to let you go and have a play and make a few forms. If you want to make a new form just to play with, that could be a good idea. So you can go and add a new form, give it a name like test form or Sarah's form, whatever you want to call it. And you can actually start by one of the pre-populated forms anyway. So it's a good idea to start with the standard form because that'll give you the basic information like name, email and mobile and a nice text area. So top tip there, make a test form and start with a standard, hit create, and here you can see a nice form field. This one automatically has the nice subscribe link in there for you as well, if you want to make sure that people opt in. So top tips there. Well, task number 1, go and create your own test form and have a play with some of those fields. Familiarize yourself with the different types of fields. And then what we're going to do later on in this episode is drop your test form onto a page so that we can go and do a test submission and check out that landing page, but also the email that your customers are going to get. Okay, so what we can do now is we've just looked at the edit page, so we can also click the settings page, which, as you know, now will go to a black screen where we've got that meta information. But I'll just show you something else. So what I'm going to do here is click edit to go back into our form, and I can access the settings here, which takes me through to the settings in exactly the same way. Okay, I can click view also, and I can see the page of where this form lives. If it is living on a page, I can see the complete list of pages where this form lives, which helps me go and test. Okay, so if I click one of these, again it opens up in a new tab. So a few top tips on just getting around and making that testing a little bit easier. So I'm going to click in settings here, which, as you'd expect, takes us to the forms setting area. So let's just have a quick tour of here. We've got the general information at the top. We can anchor down to the submit button. We can anchor down to our notifications, our email notifications. And of course, we've got payments, which we've talked about. And at the bottom, we have integrations. Okay, so general information. Well, each form you can give a name. Now, just remember, only you and your logged in team see this name. And that's important here so that you can identify which form is which. Well, here we've got our event light, but if you're in marketing or if you're using a marketing agency, they might also create multivariate forms. So they might want to test certain things like reducing the number of fields that you have. Does it increase the conversion rate? You know, that's a very common thing that people are going to test with forms. Less so these days is the button label. You know, historically we'd do a lot of testing on button labels. Like we worked out years ago that if you type in the word submit, you may as well just type in absolutely nothing because it doesn't make a difference. But these days people know what a button is against a form. So you don't have to be too verbose in your description and your form label. You can just say RSVP, book, buy, maybe next, and people tend to know what it is these days. So don't get wrapped up too much in your button label. I'd say just keep it short and sweet. Now, the other thing is that you can see here we've got lots of colors. Now, we are replacing these colors with swatches. That's coming in the second quarter 2023. Why aren't they there now? Well, as you know, MOBLE is a system that we built for our own agency, and we're rolling it out now across the world so that the entire world can share these tools that we've built for ourselves. So there's a roadmap of just tying up the last few things to improve the UI. So what we've done as a temporary feature is we've just put a link to the colors area up here so that you can see all of your accents. So it's main, neutral, accent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you've got your light and dark. So just use that as a reference for now. If you are watching this as from the second quarter 2023, well, you'll see the color swatches here anyway, not a drop down. Okay, cool stuff. So let's race through each of these colors so that you know exactly what they are. Well, here you can see we've got label color, which is obviously the main label color. Okay, very straightforward. But we've got the field text color. Okay, so this is not the placeholder. Here you can see a placeholder. You could write some descriptive words in here in the placeholder, but when someone types in the text, this is the text color. Okay, so we've looked at text color there and the placeholder. So text color is after, placeholder is before. Then we've got the field background color. Now on mobile we've got a few different types of forms. So sometimes we've got forms with an actual field with a full black background color, but sometimes we just use an accent line. So this blue accent is accent 1, isn't it? So you can see here that our field background is accent 1. Okay, so pretty straightforward stuff there, and you can see it's the same with the button color that we can control. Notably, with the button color, I'm on my pink accent 6. If I was on my accent 1, which is that lighter sky blue, I might choose to have it in ghost. We know that inline is the size of the button text. Take inline off and it's going to be the full width of the frame. And then mini is a smaller height of a button as well. So now you should be able to style your forms and also rename them so that you can make variants. Well, I'll just show you one quick tip for creating variants. And if we just go back into the main forms area, what I'll do is show you the clone button. So you can see here the clone button. So if you are making variants, like changing from one color to the other, I wouldn't change the main color. I would just simply click the clone, create a variant, rename it, and then go and put your colors in. And now you've got a nice variant which will appear in your editor in your drop down. If you've got an editor and you're wondering, if you've just created a new form and you're wondering where it is, if the editor's always open, just remember to save and hit refresh, and that will update the list of that dynamic content and it will feed into your list. So pretty straightforward stuff. You should get that by now. That's the concept of mobile with dynamic, whether it's a widget pulling in information, whether it's a form pulling in dynamic forms, or whether it's a menu pulling in dynamic menus. It all works the same way with your dynamic content. Okay, so let's push on. Let's go back to our form and let's look at the thank you page. Well, you can see here, this is a thank you page and the URL is /thanks. Well, it's bringing in a whole bunch of other pages. These are all pages that are live or hidden. They're not landing pages, they're not blogs, they're not products, and they're not sections. These are thank you pages. Okay, so you can see here thank you pages. So let me go into the colors, into the pages area, and let's make sure we know how to find those. You'll know this from the earlier episode, but if I go to pages again, just open a new tab. Now I'm looking for pages that are live and hidden. I could just type in a word like thank, and that will just bring up any pages. Now with my thank you pages, I like to tag them thank you page. That way, if I was looking for my pages, I could just go thank you page and search for that thank you page. Now I could make clones and name them in nice ways, as you've already learnt. Okay, I always use the tag notification as well, because we've got different types of notifications. So let's just go and look at this notification, and I'll now look for sections. And you can see that we've got email templates too. So this is the body email. So this is really plain text. If I just open this in a new tab, you can see I've just got some plain text here that will inject into the body of an email. Okay, so that's a notification. So we've got our thank you page. Let's open this up as a new tab, which is styled. This one's got a background image and some text. We could make this more legible, as you'll learn in later episodes. I would probably put an overlay on this, so we'll go and fix up this thank you page in a later episode. And we've got our thank you email. So back into our form, we know that this one is the thank you page, and if we go down to notification, this one is the thank you email. So yes, send a confirmation email. Now email body text, I can now assign this to our section. So here's a list of all of our sections, and you can see here this particular section is thank you email. So I would attach that. So I can write different thank you emails for different forms. I could use the same thank you email for the different forms as well. So that's a nice way to work. So just so you know, thank you emails are sections, thank you pages are pages. Okay, so that should be pretty self-explanatory there. You can mix and match your pages, and then you can mix and match your thank you emails too. Okay, so now with button, that's pretty obvious. We've looked at the label, we've looked at the color, and we've looked at whether it's ghost, inline, or mini. And confidence text is just sometimes you want to run some text that can go above or below that button. Maybe it's just we do not spam or something like that. So you can play around with that in your conversions to include some confidence text as well. But we've just looked at email notification, haven't we? Now the good thing about your forms, you can set them up so that many different people can receive this notification. Okay, so let's have a look at that. Well, this is the customer notification. This is the email that they will see when they receive it. So what you want to do is set up your email with your company name, or department as well. That's in text. And then you want to put it in this bracket like this, and then you want to put in your email address that they see. And of course they can reply to this email too if they hit reply. So make sure you choose a nice tactical email there for the customer notification. Well, what's admin notification here? Well, you can see here, this is who in your team is going to be notified when you receive it. So in this case, I've got Paul, and then my email, paul@belio.com.au. Now, if I was to add someone else, I would just put a comma, no spaces, and the same format again. Okay. Now I can put the subject line of what the customer sees in their email, and I can put a title, which is the main title that goes above the body text that they'll see there too. And then we've just talked about the body content. So all that should make pretty much sense. All I'm saying at this point is I want you to test all your emails and forms all the time before you send them, and get into that habit. Never put a form live without testing the email. Now, if you don't want to have an email sent to the customer once they submit, which is totally normal, you might just want them to go to a landing page, then you can put don't send customer notification email. And if you don't want that email either, you can say don't send confirmation email and admin notification. Okay, now finally onto payments here. As I've said, your forms can take payments, so you need to give it a payment gateway. Well, we've got a few different types of gateway. Now, if ever in doubt, you're best off using Stripe. It is the easiest to set up. Now, when you set up Stripe, it will ask for a live API key. It also gives you a test API key as well, but make sure it's a live key. So this will start with sk_live_ and then your ID, okay? So make sure you put in your live API key. You can put your currency, whether it's Australian dollars or US dollars, and then the payment type. Is this a one-time only payment? So are you just accepting $9 a month once? Okay. Oh, sorry, are you just accepting $9 once? Or if it's a subscription, are you selecting requesting $9 a month? So we've got one time and subscription. Okay. Now, with your credit card form, you can do two things. You can put the credit card information on the same page below, or you could have it appending next. So this will put a next step. So you've got their customer information, they'll go next, and then the credit card will appear. So the very simple way to take payments. So the only thing I'll show you now, and we'll come on to integrations in later episodes. We're going to have a whole section on integrations. Integrations just means, do you want this form to go into your CRM? Or do you want it to go into another CRM like MailChimp lists and things like that? So look out for that in the integrations, but you can, anyone that fills in this form, you can send them to, say, a MailChimp list, which is super, super useful. Okay, so I'll just show you now how we set up a payment type. So what I'm going to do is go back into the form, and I'm actually going to add a pricing field. So what I can do now is add a new field, and in this case I might decide to choose a drop down. Okay, and now what I want to do is give it a price. So I can say something like $9 per month, and then I can, on a new line, I could say $49 per month, and then on the next line I could say $79 per month. Now I can set this as a price, and at which point it creates a pricing table. So now over on the front end, the customer can check one of these, and then it will apply that credit card information so that they can submit it. And that is everything that I want to show you on the forms episode. So I think we'll wrap there, only to say that on day 5 we're going to be exploring forms some more. We're going to be looking at turning your form submissions into members and putting those members into groups, which is all managed in the contacts area. So here is the contacts area, and you can see this is a list of where all your inquiries appear. So you don't just get your inquiries via email, you keep a log of all of your leads that come in via the website here. And if those members subscribe, they go into a member list, where you can also look at all the different companies that have inquired. So you get your contact and they live inside a company. And then of course you've got all of your automations, which is what we're really going to be diving into in day 5, making sure that if someone's submitted a form, you can send scheduled emails and scheduled SMSs and scheduled WhatsApp messages to them sequentially within a funnel. And that will all be coming up in day 5.